part. Just speak a little louder
Okay, sure.
if you can.
So, good morning, everyone. Today, my talk is on attacks on JWT. A little bit introduction about myself. My name is Parth. I'm a final year student, security enthusiast, a web developer, and you can follow me on this Twitter handle. So, the today's agenda for this talk will be what is JWT, or as it is pronounced JOT? How is it used? What are the possible attacks? Some demonstration and mitigations for those attacks. So JSON Web Token, as defined in this RFC 7519, is a serializable way in which you can represent claim. Now, claim is an assertion made about a party or object. So when you are using sign in with Google, the Google is actually claiming that no, this is the XYZ person, and this is the his authorization, right? So claims are these definitions or assertions made about a party or object. All the major web frameworks are currently using it. So there are actually two types of claims: user defined and default claims. I will show you them in the decoded JWT later. So this is what a normal JWT would look like. So there are three encoded strings with a separation of dot. So this is the first one is the encoded header. The second one is the encoded payload, and this is the signature. There is a nice website jwd.io in which you can see this encoded and decoded JWT. So as you can see, this pink pink string is actually the header in which it has the default claims like alg type, and many more are there, but this is sufficient for this PPT. For payload, you can have both default and user defined claims, like subject is a default claim, IAT is default claim, the name is a user defined claim. Let me show you. So yeah, so the signature, this last part is called signature. So it is obtained by base 64 URL encoding the header, the payload, and then they are hashed using a secret key like anything. Okay, so this is how a JWT is made. So there is a basic differentiation between authentication and authorization. So for getting a JWT, you need to first authenticate to a server, right? So consider this application or a postman as something client, which will send ID and password to a authorization server. So that part is called authentication. And when the authorization server looks up that this is a valid user, it will send a JWT corresponding to that client. Now that JWT will define what a user is authorized to do in this or any of its resource servers, right? So the user needs to send the JWT so that the resource server will know that if this user is authorized to use this resource or not. Now, as we can see, the session management using session ID is shown on the left side, and session management using JWT is shown on the right side. In session ID version, you can see that there is a post request, and the server needs to manage the session data, or it needs to manage a database in which session ID is stored. So this is all stored on the server memory. So whenever user requests a resource, the server sends a session ID as a cookie. And whenever it needs to acquire some resource or work with some resource, it sends this session ID cookie to the server, and it verifies from the database that what this user is authorized to perform. And if he is authorized to access that resource, it sends the response accordingly. Now, this is called a stateful representation of session management. The JWT is for stateless management of session. So, what happens in this is totally the server is totally freed of using the database. It does not need to store any user information on the server database. Instead, it gives the job to the client for handling those things. So, for example, the client makes a request for authentication using his email or password, and then the server creates a JWT for that user with some secret key, which is only with the server. Now the JWT is sent back to the browser. When the client wants to access some resource, it will send this JWT, which was signed by a secret key by the server. So if any modification is done in this JWT, the server will came to know by matching the hash of the JWT. If the signature is verified and the user is authorized to access some resource, then the user will get appropriate response. Now, you may have heard about the Apple bug bounty recently by Bhavuk Jain. So he has demonstrated one this authentication problem which was existing in sign in with Apple. So in this, he states that whenever the authorization request was sent to the Apple auth server, it sends JWT in exchange of that request, and that JWT is used for verifying by any third party application, right? So here the problem was in this authorization request which was sent. If you switch the email ID of the authorization request, then auth server does not validate whether it was sent by any legitimate user or attacker, and it gives away the JWT as it is. So this was an account takeover vulnerability which was recently disclosed here. The author included that those such vulnerabilities are existing in implementation of this. The JWT or this method is still the best way to authenticate the user, because people usually tend to use the same password for all the websites. Now, here are some more things about JWT. It is basically a base 64 encoding which is URL safe. So the things like plus is replaced with minus slash is replaced with underscore, and all the paddings in the base 64 are removed. Much more about the use case of JWT is that it is used for information exchange, authorization, as we have seen in the previous slide, and stateless sessions. The supported algorithms in the header are non HS256, RS256, ES256, etc. So HS256 is the hash shared secret algorithm. RS256 is actually the RSA public private key combination. ES is the same as RSA, but it uses elliptic curve, uh, that algorithm. Now there are two types of tokens which are JW, which are made using this specification: refresh token and access token. So access tokens have a very less lifetime due to security consideration. If the access token never expires, that the user may be able to uh, access it m- m- whenever he means to. And refresh tokens are used to they have more expiry than access tokens. So basically refresh tokens are used to get access tokens when these are expired. So as you can see, this is a single page application, and this is the authorization server, and this is the resource server. So if the authentication token or access token has expired, the single page application can send the refresh token to the authorization server and get another authentication which has more expiry than the previous one, and use it to access the resource server. Now there are two architectures in which these JWTs are implemented. One is using the symmetric shared key, in which the authorization server uses the same secret key for signing all the algorithms, all the JWT, sorry. And another one is asymmetric key, which we'll see later. So consider there is a browser or a client sending a request to the API gateway. Now, this is the authentication server which has shared secret among all 8 services, you can say. So if a JWT is signed by one server and it is used to access another resource, then the JWT will be verified because they all share the same secret key. Now, another way we can implement this is using asymmetric key, or the when we are using RS-256 in the ALK claim in the header of JWT. So there is this authentication server has a private key with itself. It will sign the JWT using this private key, and all the subsequent server which are providing resources will verify that using the public key. So even if the public key is available to the attacker, he will be only able to verify this JWT, not make any changes. So some tools that are used to implement this kind of architecture is called Keycloak, which will manage your keys, and another one is HashiVault, something like that. So these are the most prominent attacks that have been conducted on JWT. The first one is the all none attack. So when there is also one algorithm called none in the specification of a JWT. So this is compulsory to implement in all JWTs. What this basically means is that the JWT will be verified without any signature. Now this is this was used for originally debugging purposes. So using it in production, or with it is only recommended to use it in the internal network. The second one is brute forcing with weak symmetric keys. When we are using the ALG HS256 or shared secret, we must use very strong symmetric keys. So another attack that is possible on JWT is accesses. When we are using single page applications, it it is generally implemented using Angular or React or any web framework, front end web framework, right? So it, generally the users store developers store these JWTs in local storage, so it is not safe to store JWTs in local storage. Following these accesses can easily do harm to your application. There is another algorithm substitution attacks in which RS-256 is taken as HS-256 by the server. I will be demonstrating this attack. There is another attack called substitution attack, in which uh, the use the intended use of JWT is done on another server. The last one is plain text leakage through analysis of ciphertext length. So consider there is a cookie uh, like this secret is equal to something which we cannot predict what it is, and some favorite color value which is set to red. Now by changing this value of red, we can see how the length of the plain ciphertext is increasing or decreasing. If the size is decreasing by appending one character, then we can conclude that that might be present in this secret. So first demo will be, I will be showing you how weak symmetric keys are cracked using simple tools, right? So I have developed one node application. So this thing is the authentication server which is running on port 4000. and this is the resource server which is running on port 3000, right? Now let us get one JWT. So this is a simple REST API client which I am using for getting the JWT token for this username, right? So as I have sent this request, this is the authentication token that I am getting, which is signed using a shared secret. Now there is this CJWT cracker tool which is built in C, which can be used to crack any JWTs which are uh, signed using symmetric keys. It takes about 13 to 14 seconds to crack weak symmetric keys. So there are various implementations of this cracker. It is also available on with John the Ripper. It is updated to support JWT cracking. See, the so secret is hello. Now you can see I had implemented this in this file .env. So this access token secret is hello. You should not use such secrets. Although people tend to use long secrets like this, but the recommended size for access token is always 256 bit if you are using HS256. Now second demo that I'll be
Parth, before you proceed to second demo,
yes.
two requests. Whenever you are showing the terminal, just make the fonts little bit larger, and
Okay.
if you can speak a bit louder, because on YouTube we can't hear. I mean, the audio is really low.
Okay. Okay.
So if you can check your system settings, or you can just speak a little bit louder. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
Hello. Hello. Now is it audible?
Yeah. Yeah. Please proceed.
Okay. Yeah. So the second demo will be of the non algorithm which I had discussed previously. So there is one website in which the one person Langcamper has implemented is, so I am going to use this as a resource. So this one is for using the non attacking the non algorithm. So let us get a new JWT because it expires after a few times. Now I will be copying this JWT and pasting it here, right? Let us, okay, this won't work here. As you can see, this is the base 64 URL decoded JWT. Now we will change this to none. Oops. Wait a second. So this is the header part. We will post it here. Now we'll change this data to something, anything, because this won't be signed and it won't be checked because we have used the none algorithm in the header. If there is no checking on the backend side, then this would be fine. If we are sending this JWT and it is accepted, then there is no mitigation on the server side for this none algorithm. So as you can see, we have changed the data in this, and the algorithm that is used in none, and it is showing as valid JWT token slash object. Now I'll be showing you the third demonstration, which is substituting the HS256 for RS256, right? So for this, I will be getting a new JWT here, and I will copy this with the jwt.io playground. Now, as you can see, in this type of attack, I will be, uh, let me first explain to you. The So this is the code for it. Wait a minute. Is this visible?
Yes, Parth.
Okay. So in the implementation side, when the server is using more than two algorithms like HS256 and RS256, then they have to mention it like this in the algorithms array which is used in the server. So if a key was signed using a private key, and the header would contain something like RS256, and the JWT is modified to claim that the header is HS256. Now what would happen in the normal case is that whenever the server signs with a private key, and it would be verified with a public key because it was RS256, but the user can or the attacker can modify the header to make it HS256, and it would be verified by public key. So we can change the header to HS256 and sign it using public key. In the case of HS256, it is signed and verified using both keys. So when we sign using public key, it would be verified because we are providing this in the header. So that is the attack I am going to demonstrate. So first, let us change the header of this JWT. Now I will be changing this to this. So these two parts are or modified JWT header and payload. Now the only thing we need is uh, the valid signature which will be entered here. So to get that, we need to get the public key of this, which I have already installed in my system, which is on this file public.pm. Now, whenever you do this, we need to convert it the public key to ASCII hash. For you doing that, this is the command that will be used. So whenever this is the output when you will be converting uh, the public key file to ASCII hash. Now this will be used for signing our JWT. The second step is to sign the JWT using ASCII hash of public key. So this in this we need to provide the current header and payload, and then the signing key will be provided, which will get us the signed key, which will be the signature in this later part. So I already have this. Now we need to convert this ASCII hash to JWT. So for that, I have one Python one-liner which basically converts the hex to URL self base64 encode, and it will print. So copy this. So this is our signature. Let's see if it works. Invalid exception. Let me check. A second. I think this should not be a Okay, now the token is expired. Let us try it once again. Okay, it's done. So as you can see, I have signed this token using the hex key of the public key which was available on this domain, and converted it to HS256 for so that it would be verified by the public key, though it was intended that the RS-256 algorithm would be used. So this is the demo, third demo. The first time it did not work because I was using an extra dot after this echo. So you need to pass header and payload, and without the ending dot. Now continuing, if you have any doubt, then ask me in the comment section. I'll be answering all your queries, right? So the next type of attack is substitution attacks for a different recipient. Now there are actually two types for different recipient and the same recipient. This is for different recipient. Suppose there is one organization and it has an authorization server, so it is using its private signing key to issue JWT tokens, right? So for example, this is an attacker Joe who gets an valid JWT with this claim that this sub claim means that who is the user of this token. So Joe is the user of this token, and this is his role is admin. So it was used by organization one. He is the admin of only organization one. But if the same public signing key is also used by organization two, and if Joe sends this JWT to organization two, then he or she might, he might be able to get access as an admin to this server. So the recipient here is a different organization two, but as it is using the same public signing key, the attacker will be able to gain access in this organization or server. Now, same recipient substitution attack can also occur if in the same organization one person is authorized to only access the main mail server, and he or she is not authorized to use the financial operations server, right? So whenever the Joe will get the JWT, the mail server issues the JWT to Joe, then he can access the mail server. But if the same public signing key is also used by the another server in the same organization as finance ops, then attacker can also send this JWT to that server and gain access. So an important claim, that is ISS and AUD. So ISS means the issuer. Who is the issuer of this JWT token? If a third party is using our token for authentication, then it needs to know who is the original issuer of this token. In this case, it is this school company. And the audience AUD claim defines who will be using this token. So in this case, the Joe has this JWT is intended for user database of this company. If he or she can change this audience claim, then it could be used for finance ops too. Now, JWK is a JSON web key. Now these things are used if you want to embed the signing key directly into the JWT. So it is generally not recommended, but yeah, this feature exists. There is also KID parameter injection. So KID is used for identifying the keys that were used for signing the JWT. if uh, if in case of key rotation, when we are constantly rotating the keys for security purposes, else it would we would be easily able to brute force those keys. So these keys have IDs which are stored in some server. So for example, the key used for signing this algorithm is keys /1245. Now in the at the time of assigning this JWT, the this key may be valid, but after some time it may not be valid due to key rotation. So if a user sends this JWT to the server, then he or she might not be able to get access without the KID parameter. So KID determines which key was used for signing this particular JWT. So as you can see that it might be possible that these keys are extracted from a file system on the server or directory. So there are possibilities of doing directory travels or attacks, or if this was used as an insecure file read operation, like in Ruby you have open function that after file you can pipe the UMI command to see if command injection vulnerability exists. In JK, the JKU header is also known as JWK set URL. So instead of providing the JSON web key directly into the parameter, the JKU tells the user that whether which keys you should use for signing this key. So in this case, you can see the JKU parameter is changed to some evil corp and safe keys.json, where the attacker might be able to put his own keys and sign the algorithm. So if the backend server is not validating what domain the JKU is pointing to, and simply takes that header.jku is equal to this and extract the keys for signing or matching verifying the JWT, then we are in trouble. So lastly, talking about best practices about JWT, backend should input sanitize the input. It should always verify algorithm. In the case of RS-256 and HS-256 substitution attack, you can see that this could be the solution. You should use two verify functions in which allowed algorithm should be restricted to one. For HS256 you should use this shared secret. For RS256 you should use this public key. So in this way we can reduce that confusion. For HS256, it is recommended to use minimum 256 bit length secret. So that is what I have discussed previously. Use well-known JWT libraries like in Node you have JSON Web Token, which is managed by Auth0. So it is pretty secure, and also keep updating them. Avoid compression of encryption inputs to prevent the plain text analysis by plain text analysis by the length of its the token. Always validate the issuer, the subject, and the use of and use audience claim. Otherwise the JWT will be susceptible to substitution attacks. Change the secret keys frequently and use different password for different service. So the shared keys should be kept rotating and use the KID parameter very securely. Lastly, you should read the documentation very carefully. For the storage purposes, you can use cookie to store the JWT with the necessary cookie protections like HTTP only to prevent CSRF. But you should never store any sensitive information in local storage. So because it will be susceptible to accesses. Instead, uh, you should also employ input sanitization both on front end and back end. JWT should have short expiry times in case they get stolen. So as I have said, refresh tokens are used to have more expiry times, but they cannot be used to access any resource. They can be used to get another access token. So you must implement a backend background implementation of this refresh token, so that you are always connected to the server and you should not have to log out and do again the readout login process. So these are all the references and the tools that were used in this presentation. you must look if you are interested. Thank you. If you have any questions, please ask.
Yeah, so guys, if you have any questions, please drop them in the YouTube chat. Parth will answer them right there. So Parth, we'll do the one thing. You just keep tabs on the YouTube chat. If there are any
Okay.
question for your session, you can just answer them right
Sure,
there.
sure. Thank you.
And